She parked her ugly trailer right on my grass like it was some public dump site. No warning, no permission, just pure Karen energy. So I put up a big sign the next morning. For sale, lawn, land, and trailer included. Within hours, people started showing up asking about the free trailer. She was furious, but hey, she parked it like it was part of the property. So I treated it like it was. They say a man's home is his castle. Mine's not made of stone or surrounded by a moat, but it's got something better: a well-manicured front lawn, a wraparound porch, and just enough peace and quiet to remind me why I left city life behind. I bought my house in a cul-de-sac community about 5 years ago. Nothing flashy, just a clean, two-story with beige siding, white trim, and a yard I actually enjoyed taking care of. I wasn't trying to win Yard of the Month, but I kept my hedges trimmed, my grass mowed, and the flower beds tidy. Not for anyone else, just for me. It was the kind of neighborhood where kids rode scooters after dinner, mailboxes looked like they were ordered in bulk, and neighbors waved whether they meant it or not. A middle-class suburb with predictable charm and manageable quirks. We had an HOA, sure, but it wasn't unbearable, at least not at first. They mostly stuck to the usual stuff. Trash bins shouldn't be visible from the street. Porch lights should be warm white only. No holiday decorations past 30 days. Reasonable, if slightly annoying. You signed the agreement when you moved in, and in return, the neighborhood stayed pleasant and consistent. But what none of us realized, or maybe just didn't want to admit, was that Karen saw the HOA as more than a set of bylaws. She saw it as her personal kingdom. Karen lived 3 houses down from me, the same model home, just flipped. She wore pastel sweaters year-round, walked her tiny dog like it was royalty, and introduced herself to every new neighbor with a clipboard in one hand and a subtle warning in the other. "You'll love it here," she told me the first week I moved in. "We're a tight-knit group. Just don't forget to read the regulations." Some of us take them very seriously. At the time, I took that to mean she liked structure. Later, I learned it meant control. Over the years, Karen had built herself into a self-appointed enforcer. She wasn't just the HOA president. She was the HOA. If someone left a basketball hoop too close to the sidewalk, Karen sent a letter. If your Halloween lights stayed up a day too long, Karen brought it up at the next community meeting. Once, she even complained about someone's wind chimes being emotionally disruptive. She didn't yell. She didn't curse. She just smiled while she made you feel small. Still, I stayed off her radar. I kept my lawn neat, didn't host wild parties, and didn't paint my garage door non-compliant tones. I valued boundaries, both literal and figurative. And for a while, it worked. Then came the trailer. It started innocently enough, a minor nuisance I spotted one Monday morning while grabbing the newspaper. A large white travel trailer, double axle, with sun-faded decals and rust on the hitch. It was parked awkwardly, halfway in Karen's driveway, the back end angling over the curb and resting directly on my grass. At first, I thought it was temporary. Maybe she was loading up for a weekend getaway, or had family in town. People make compromises for short-term things. I gave it a day. By Tuesday evening, it hadn't moved an inch. The tires had sunk into the edge of my turf, flattening the neatly cut Bermuda grass and leaving dark grooves in the soil. A row of ants had found the trailer's shade. Boone, my Labrador, wouldn't stop sniffing the area like it had been dropped from another planet. On Wednesday, I walked over. Karen was in her driveway, pruning a rose bush, wearing gardening gloves that had never known dirt. "Morning," I said. She looked up like I'd startled her. "Oh, hi there. Just wanted to check. Is that your trailer?" She smiled sweetly. "It's my brother's, technically. He's helping us renovate our basement, so he's staying in it for a bit. The driveway doesn't quite fit the full length, you know." "Right," I said, gesturing toward my lawn. "It's just, well, the back end's over my property line. I'd appreciate it if you could shift it or park it fully on your side." Karen gave a light chuckle, like I told a joke. "Oh, I wouldn't worry about it. It's just grass. And besides, we're part of the same community. I'm sure the HOA would agree it's a reasonable accommodation." She turned and walked back toward her garden without another word. That's when I realized this wasn't a misunderstanding. This was a message, a silent declaration that my property lines were up for negotiation if Karen found it convenient. I didn't respond with anger. I didn't escalate. But I did start reading the HOA bylaws, cover to cover. And I found something interesting. While residents were subject to parking restrictions, guest trailers were only permitted for 48 hours without written HOA approval, and only on paved driveways, not lawns, curbs, or common green areas. Even better, the grassy edge of my property, where the trailer now sat, was marked clearly on my plat map as private property, not HOA-controlled space. Which meant Karen wasn't just being rude. She was breaking her own rules. The next day, I approached her again, more direct this time. I reviewed the HOA terms, I said calmly. That trailer isn't allowed there. I'll need it moved by tomorrow. Her smile didn't waver, but her eyes sharpened. Well, that would be your interpretation, she said. But the board understands exceptions. And since I am the board, I'm comfortable approving temporary overflow parking in special situations. That's not how rules work, I said. Karen raised an eyebrow. Then feel free to submit a complaint in writing. I'll make sure it gets reviewed. And with that, she turned and walked inside, leaving the trailer exactly where it was. I stood there for a moment, soaking it in. Karen had weaponized her position, using the HOA as both shield and sword, all while trampling on the very rules she demanded the rest of us follow. And I had two options. I could go through the formal channels she controlled, write letters, wait weeks, and hope for fair treatment. Or I could do something that would get her attention and remind her that just because she liked being in charge didn't mean she was untouchable. So the next morning, I pulled out an old for sale sign from my garage, left over from when I helped my sister sell her car. I added a fresh piece of whiteboard beneath it and wrote in thick black marker, "For sale, large yard with bonus trailer. No hitch needed." Then I staked it right next to Karen's trailer and waited for the calls to start rolling in. If there's one thing I've learned about HOA leaders like Karen, it's that their favorite way to cross a line is by pretending the line doesn't exist at all. The morning after I asked her to move the trailer, politely, calmly, I stepped out to grab the mail and found the trailer hadn't budged an inch. If anything, it had settled in. The front jack was now resting on a concrete paver she must have brought over, and one of the tires had been turned slightly toward the curb, digging a deeper groove into my lawn like it was marking territory. At first, I gave her the benefit of the doubt. Maybe she hadn't had a chance to move it yet. People get busy. But by evening, the only thing that had changed was the addition of a folding step beneath the trailer door and a sunshade hooked to the side, like this was a designated camping site and not my front yard. I decided to try one more time. I walked over, knocked on her door, and waited. She answered with her usual bright smile and an apron that looked like it hadn't touched a stove in its lifetime. "Oh, you again," she said like I was a pop quiz. "Yep, just checking in about the trailer. It's still on my grass." She blinked as if surprised, then looked past me toward the trailer like she'd forgotten it existed. "Oh, that. Yes, we're still waiting on the new concrete pad to be clear at my place. The HOA landscapers dug up the corner lot last week and said it'll be a few days before we can move anything. I hope that's okay." "Not really," I replied. "It's been over 48 hours. HOA policy says guest trailers are temporary and must stay on paved driveways, not lawns, especially someone else's." Karen laughed, as if I were joking. "Well, it's only partially on your lawn, and it's not like you use that part for anything. Besides, I'm part of the landscaping committee. We approved the pad work. It's standard procedure." I didn't flinch. "It still doesn't give you the right to use my property." Now her smile faltered just slightly. "Well, if it's about the grass, I'll make sure it's reseeded when we're done. But if you're going to make a formal issue out of this, I should remind you, you're technically in violation of Section 4C. "What's that?" She leaned against her doorframe. "No unapproved signage in view of the street. I noticed your flag last month. Patriotic, yes, but it was up past sunset without illumination. That's not allowed under HOA lighting rules." So there it was, a threat disguised as neighborly clarification. She was telling me that if I pressed the issue about the trailer, she'd dig up violations, real or imaginary, and start applying pressure where she knew I wouldn't like it. She didn't need a badge, just a rule book and a little vindictiveness. I gave a tight nod, duly noted, and walked away. By day 5, I wasn't the only one noticing. A few neighbors had slowed their walks as they passed the trailer, throwing puzzled glances toward my yard. I heard a couple mutter, "Is that allowed?" And she just left it there while pushing strollers or walking their dogs. One guy gave me a shrug like, "Hey man, not my fight, but good luck." The worst part? The trailer wasn't just an eyesore. It was damaging my lawn. The edge where the tire sat was now yellowing, the weight of the thing pressing into the topsoil. And the sunshade cast such deep shadow that the normally lush grass beneath it had wilted to brittle strands. That patch of yard took time, effort. I aerated it in the spring, seeded it in the fall. That wasn't just turf, it was mine. But Karen didn't care, because she convinced herself it was just temporary, justifiable, and within reason. And when people like her believe they're the authority, reason becomes whatever keeps them on top. I sent an email to the HOA general account. Simple, factual, with a time-stamped photo of the trailer and a screenshot of the rulebook highlighting Section 3B. Temporary parking for recreational vehicles or trailers shall not exceed 48 hours unless approved in writing by the HOA board. Vehicles must remain entirely on the owner's paved property. No response. So I sent another, this time CCing the property management company listed in the bylaws. Karen replied directly within the hour. "Thank you for your concern. As stated previously, this is a temporary situation while we address a property issue related to HOA maintenance. I have verbally approved this exception. There is no need for further escalation." Verbally approved. By herself. For her own violation. I wanted to laugh, but I didn't, because I knew this was her power move, dare me to take it public, to make it uncomfortable, to seem like the unreasonable one. That's the trap. People like Karen win not just by being wrong, but by betting you won't go through the trouble to prove they're wrong. So I didn't argue anymore. I went quiet, and I started planning. That night, I walked to the hardware store and picked up a fresh for sale sign. Big, double-sided, with the kind of font you could read from a block away. Then I printed a high-quality photo of the trailer right there on my lawn and taped it beneath the sign. In bold letters underneath, I added, "Includes trailer. First come, first serve. No need to tow, already parked." By morning, the sign was staked into the ground just a few feet from the tongue of her trailer hitch. By lunch, I'd posted the same photo on a local classified board online with the description. "Large lot for sale. Comes with bonus trailer and free shade. You haul it. You own it. No HOA contact needed. Trailer's already on site." And by 3 p.m., I had 3 voicemails from people asking if they could come tour the trailer before the price went up. That's when Karen finally cracked. She came marching down the sidewalk like she was storming a courtroom, lips tight, visor crooked, HOA badge lanyard bouncing off her chest. "You cannot sell my trailer." I stepped out onto the porch, calm as ever. "Didn't say I was selling your trailer. Just the lawn it's sitting on. And since it's parked here, I figured people might be interested in both. This is a violation of HOA signage policy." "Section 4C, I nodded. "You mentioned that. I reviewed it again last night. Applies to permanent signs posted longer than 72 hours, not temporary displays responding to code violations." Karen's nostrils flared. "You're making a scene?" "Funny," I said. "That's what people have been saying about the trailer." She stared at me, speechless, for once. Then she turned, stomped back to her driveway, and within 30 minutes, I heard the groan of a hitch locking into place and the squeal of tires pulling her trailer off my lawn. "No apology, no explanation, just for a treat." I left the for sale sign up for 2 more days, just long enough to make a point. Then I took it down, watered the dying patch of grass, and waved at every neighbor who passed with a smile that said everything Karen didn't want to hear. Boundary restored. Lesson delivered. There's a special kind of silence that falls over a neighborhood when something ridiculous is happening, but no one wants to be the first to admit they're watching. That was the silence that settled in the moment I hammered the "for sale" includes trailer sign into my front yard. It was around 7:15 a.m., just after the joggers, but before the dog walkers. The sun was barely up, the air still cool, and I was out there with my mallet and a fresh cup of coffee, planting the sign like I was claiming new land for the kingdom of common sense. Right next to Karen's trailer, facing the street. The board was white, the lettering bold, and below the main message, I wrote, Plenty of shade. Tires in great condition. Comes with local HOA drama. No extra charge. The best part? I zip-tied a plastic brochure box next to the post with a few printouts of the listing. Full-color photos of the trailer on my lawn, a mock price tag, $FRE if you can haul it today, and a little footer that said, "Contact." Not me. It's not my trailer. I could feel eyes on me as I walked back inside. From behind curtains, through the slats of minivan blinds, across driveways and side yards. See, the thing about neighborhoods like mine is that people don't talk about drama. They watch it. They sip coffee while pretending to water the plants or sweep a porch that doesn't need sweeping. And they pass judgment with a smile, so long as it doesn't involve them directly. But this time, it involved everyone's favorite tyrant, Karen, and I had just thrown her trailer onto center stage. By mid-morning, the ad was live on 3 local classifieds, 1 community Facebook group, 1 neighborhood bulletin board site, and 1 online garage sale forum. Title? Oversized HOA-compliant lawn trailer. Lightly used, heavily unwanted. Tags. Needs no tow. Already parked. Comes with free sun damage and HOA baggage. It took less than 30 minutes to get my first message. Is this real? Can I come look today? I replied with a canned message. Sorry, you'll have to speak to the owner. She hasn't claimed it yet, but it's been here for days. I figured it was free to a good home. That's when the magic happened. Someone forwarded the post to a friend. That friend asked their cousin. And somewhere in that phone tree, Karen caught wind of it. She showed up around noon. I was out front trimming the hedges when I heard the distinct squeal of her sandals on the sidewalk. That fast, heavy march of a woman who's lost control but refuses to admit it. You think this is funny, she shouted before she even crossed the curb. I turned, smiling. Well, the community seems to think so. Did you see the comments? She was already jabbing a finger toward the sign. Take it down. Now, this is harassment. Nope, I said. It's just marketing. You left your trailer here without asking. I figured if it's going to stay, might as well get some value out of the square footage. She was practically vibrating. You don't have my permission to use photos of my trailer. Good thing it's parked on my property, then. From that point forward, it's fair game. Her jaw dropped. You're violating HOA regulations with this sign. I nodded. Already checked. It's classified as a temporary yard sign, which, according to Section 4C, is permitted for up to 72 hours. Same way realtors list homes for weekend showings. You know, I actually borrowed your wording from a past HOA notice. Very thorough work. Her face turned red, not sunburn red. Mortified red. And just so we're clear, I continued. I never said it was your trailer. The listing says it's unclaimed. Community members are simply speculating. Right on cue, my neighbor Jeff strolled by with his golden retriever and gave a little wave. Got any offers yet? He called out. Karen's mouth opened, then closed. I almost felt bad for her. Almost. That night, things got better. By that, I mean worse for her. The Facebook post had picked up steam. Someone made a meme out of it. A stock photo of a trailer superimposed over a lawn with the caption, "When you park like you own the street, but forget who owns the grass." Another neighbor commented, "Honestly didn't know that was her trailer. Figured she was offering free camping now." Even the local neighborhood gossip account, yes, we have one, posted a blurry shot of Karen glaring at the sign, captioned, "HOA Queen caught off guard. Plot twist, her crown's parked illegally." The next day, I got a voicemail from an unknown number. "Hi, this is David. Just saw your listing for the trailer. I'm not looking to buy, but I just wanted to say thank you." That sign made my whole week. That woman has been power tripping for years. Then another. "Hey, saw the post. Brilliant move. If she doesn't pick it up, I'll tow it just to make her sweat." It wasn't just about the trailer anymore. It was about finally watching Goliath trip over her own ego, and the neighborhood couldn't get enough. Karen came back that afternoon with gloves, a ball cap pulled low, and a pair of bolt cutters. She didn't knock, didn't announce her intentions, just stormed up to the sign and clipped the zip ties like they'd insulted her personally. I watched from the porch, arms crossed. "You're committing property damage," I said flatly. She paused. "It's your sign, on MY land." She tossed the sign onto my flower bed and walked back without another word. Within the hour, the trailer was gone. No epalegi. No explanation. Just a driveway-sized vacancy that made my yard feel normal again. I left the plastic brochure box up, this time filled with blank complaint forms and a new label. To file future trailer-related grievances, please direct all questions to the grass. Neighbors chuckled. Even Derek, our more level-headed HOA board member, wandered over later and muttered, "Well, that was effective." I just grinned. Sometimes, the best way to shut down ridiculous behavior is with a bigger spectacle. Not one rooted in yelling, but in humor and accuracy. You give people like Karen the truth and a crowd, and they crumble under both. It didn't take long before the HOA tried to push back. Karen might have moved her trailer, but she wasn't going down without throwing one last jab. And, predictably, it came wrapped in a manila envelope with the HOA letterhead stamped across the front, hand-delivered to my mailbox as if they were trying to make it feel official. Inside was a formal notice of violation, citing me for posting an unauthorized sign, instigating conflict with other residents, and, my personal favorite, conduct unbecoming of an HOA community member. Unbecoming. That's the word they used when I'd followed the rules better than the person enforcing them. Now, most folks might have felt intimidated. That's how HOA boards like Karen survive, by making people think a piece of paper and a few legal words can trump common sense and private property rights. But me? I've been waiting for this. That night, I pulled out the neighborhood covenant documents I had saved in a 3-ring binder, cross-referenced them with my property deed, and highlighted everything relevant. My lawn, up to the curb, was private property, not HOA-managed green space. Temporary signs, including for sale, lost pet, and yard sale notices, were explicitly allowed for up to 72 hours, provided they didn't obstruct sidewalks or violate local code. The HOA had no enforcement rights on private property unless the infraction involved structural modifications or repeated violations outlined in specific subsections. In other words, my for sale sign, 100% compliant. Karen's trailer, multiple violations. More than 48 hours parked without written board approval. Encroaching on a neighbor's property. Failure to notify residents of any temporary use of shared visual space. And just for fun, I attached the original email where Karen said she had verbally approved the parking exception, by herself, for herself, a decision that should have required a board vote. I printed the entire thing, 26 pages, highlighted and tabbed. Then I walked it right over to Derek's house. Derek had recently become the acting HOA president after Karen quietly stepped back from her role to focus on personal matters. He was the kind of guy who actually read the documents before making decisions and believed HOA power should be applied like salt, sparingly, and only when absolutely necessary. He answered the door, still in his work shirt, and when he saw the stack of paperwork in my hands, he gave a tired chuckle. I figured this was coming. "She filed a violation against me," I said. He winced. "I know. It was put through the system automatically. You're not the only one who got one." That surprised me. "She hit others?" "She filed citations against 5 neighbors, all people who liked or commented on your trailer post. Said it created a hostile environment." I just stared at him. He sighed. "Yeah, I'm cleaning it up." I handed him the folder. "Everything in here proves I was in the clear. And if you need more, I've got camera footage, timestamps, and GPS-stamped photos of the trailer on my property line." Derek flipped open the folder, glanced at the highlights, and nodded. "You did your homework." I did hers too, apparently. 2 days later, a formal retraction was issued by the HOA. The email subject line read, "Clarification on recent violations." It wasn't an apology, not outright. HOAs rarely admit wrongdoing. But it was a complete reversal of everything Karen had accused me of. It read, "Upon review of recent sign-related concerns, the board affirms that the signage in question did not violate HOA regulations as previously assumed. Residents are reminded to adhere to property boundaries and respectful conduct. Revised guidelines regarding guest vehicle parking will be released shortly." Translation: Karen overreached. "I stood firm." And now they had to clean up the mess without naming names. The fallout spread quickly. At the next board meeting, which I attended out of pure curiosity, Derek opened with a printed map of the community and a laser pointer. He calmly explained new signage protocols, proper procedures for approving trailer stays, and the importance of respecting adjacent property lines. Karen was there too, sitting stiffly in the back row, arms crossed, lips pressed so tight they looked white. Someone from across the room raised their hand and said, "So just to be clear, if someone parks on someone else's lawn, even if they're on the board, it's still against the rules?" Derek smiled politely. "Correct. There are no exceptions for board members or HOA officers." Another hand went up. "What about signs?" "They're permitted for up to 72 hours on private property, so long as they comply with city code." A third neighbor added, "I like the one with the trailer." That was funny. The room chuckled. Karen didn't. After the meeting, a few people shook my hand. A few gave nods of respect. But more importantly, nobody questioned me anymore. The trailer incident had gone from nuisance to neighborhood legend. People told it like folklore, the time Karen pushed too far and got publicly corrected by her own rules. Someone even joked that I should print bumper stickers. Asked me about my trailer sale. I didn't, but I did hang the for sale sign in my garage, right above my tool rack. A little souvenir, a reminder, not just of the win, but of the principle. You don't have to scream to beat people like Karen. You just have to know the rules better than they do and be willing to use them with precision. Karen never apologized. Not once. She stopped waving, stopped saying hello, stopped pretending we were just neighbors looking out for each other. That was fine by me. Silence was a huge improvement. She stopped hosting HOA events in her driveway. Her trailer vanished entirely. Not to another street, but from the neighborhood. Rumor had it she moved it to a storage facility 2 towns over. The HOA board quietly updated their vehicle storage policy, requiring all board-approved exceptions to be signed and filed. No more verbal permissions or special circumstances. And the grass on my front lawn? It's grown back, greener than ever. After the trailer saga wrapped up and the HOA quietly backed down, the neighborhood settled into something it hadn't felt like in a while: balance. Karen? She was still around, technically, but her influence had flatlined. She wasn't strutting down the sidewalk with her clipboard anymore, and the HOA newsletter she used to sign off with "Warmly, Karen, President" now arrived and signed, drafted by someone else entirely. The power vacuum she left behind was quickly filled with shared responsibility. A few new board members, a little more transparency, and a lot less drama. Residents started joking about it openly. "Hey, don't park too close to protagonist's lawn. It might end up listed on Craigslist. I heard he's selling air rights next week. Includes a free HOA citation." Even people who had never spoken to me before began waving, striking up conversations, and sharing their own care horror stories. Turns out, her trailer stunt was just the final straw. She'd rubbed plenty of folks the wrong way, nitpicking their mailboxes, citing harmless garden decor, trying to ban string lights at one point because they were visually distracting. Now, though, she was more punchline than president. To commemorate the whole ridiculous ordeal, I decided to have a little fun. I ordered a small metal plaque from a custom engraving shop, the kind you'd expect to see on a park bench or an honorary brick. I had it mounted on a garden stake, then planted it right on the edge of my lawn near where the trailer had once squatted. It read, "Trailer-free lawn since 2024. Reclaimed, reseeded, respected." The neighbors loved it. Every dog walker, jogger, or stroller pusher who passed by gave a chuckle. Some stopped to snap a picture. One guy told me he was going to install something similar next to his mailbox, just in case Karen ever got any ideas. It was a joke, sure, but it was also a line in the soil, a reminder that even the smallest patch of grass has a boundary, and that boundary matters. The HOA didn't protest. They didn't dare. With the new board in place, they were more interested in avoiding conflict than enforcing pettiness. And to their credit, they updated the rule book. Trailer rules were clarified, private lawn boundaries reaffirmed, and a new clause added about respectful conflict resolution between neighbors. I didn't ask for it, but I appreciated it. And just like that, the power Karen once clutched so tightly slipped completely out of her hands. I kept to my usual routine. Still mowed every Saturday. Still waved to the neighbors. Still minded my own business. But now, people minded theirs too. And maybe that's the real victory in all of this. Not just that I got my lawn back, but that I didn't have to raise my voice, tear anyone down, or get dirty to prove a point. I just had to be calm, precise, and a little bit clever. Turns out, when you plant your feet and your flag firmly enough, people remember it. And no one's dared park a trailer on my grass, since that if someone thinks your yard is free parking, remind them, the only thing getting towed next time might be their ego. Because property lines aren't suggestions. Boundaries aren't open invitations. And when someone rolls a 3-ton monument to entitlement onto your lawn without so much as a heads up, well, that's not a parking problem. That's a wake-up call waiting to happen. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't start a war. I just put up a sign that made people laugh, sure, but also made them think. It was bold, petty, and perfectly legal. And it worked. Kara may never admit she lost, but the grass she crushed grew back stronger. The rules she bent got rewritten, and the neighbors she tried to control, they finally got to breathe. So, if your HOA president ever decides your yard is community storage, remember, karma travels fast, especially when it's got 4 wheels, bad manners, and a trailer hitch. And nothing sells faster than karma parked on the wrong grass.